Pivot tables in Google Sheets are a very powerful and flexible tool to analyze your data quickly and easily without writing any formulas. In one of the previous videos, we have used sum and count formulas, SUMIFS, COUNTIF and COUNTIFs. And writing formula takes a bit of time. A very good alternative is pivot tables. So in this video, we will see how we can create pivot tables in Google Sheets, how to manipulate them and look at our data from various angles, and some of the associated features available in Google Sheets. So this is my data, and it is very important for you to organize your data in a specific way before creating pivot tables. And the best way is to have a header at the top and then all your data arranged in columns. And here I have 7 columns in my data, and there are 584 rows in total. If I scroll down, I can see that it's up to 585. The first thing you should know before creating a pivot table is that you understand your data. And in this data, I have few salespeople, and every salesperson is associated with a state in Australia. So this person is responsible for selling only in New South Wales, and there are more than one people selling in New South Wales, as you can see. Similarly for all other states except in Northern Territory, I think we have only one person, and we have only 3 products, product A, B and C, and these are the unit prices of these products, and then we have the total sales value for every product and every sale which occurred on any particular date. And we have data from January 2015 to December 2019. So it is a 5 years data. And now we can compare this data, we can analyze this data in various ways. So until you have some question in your mind, you will not see the full potential of pivot tables, because the purpose behind pivot tables is to generate data reports which show you a particular perspective of the data. So once you understand your data, for example, in this example, I just described that this data is for 5 years. Every salesperson belongs to any one state. We have only 3 products. So these are some of the key points about the data. Now we have a master sheet, a sheet where we practiced sum and count in one of the previous videos. And now it's time to see how easy it is to create pivot tables instead of writing these formulas. To create a pivot table, you should be inside of your data in any cell, and you click on data and pivot table, and you will see this dialog box. As you can see, this is the data range for creating pivot table. So Google Sheets has taken the total range of my table, and which is fine. Now it is a good practice to create pivot table on a new sheet. So I just click create, and now our pivot table has been created here. On the right hand side, I have pivot table editor, and if I close this accidentally, for example, I can click anywhere in my pivot table and it will reappear again. Now this is currently empty. Now we have to do 3 important tasks, as you can see on the right hand side: rows, columns and values. And at the end of this video lecture, I will also show you how to use filters inside the pivot table. But these are the 3 very important and essential tasks. Without these, there is no purpose of a pivot table. Pivot table is empty. So instead of just creating few pivot tables and wandering here and there, what I decided for this lecture is that I will show you. So this is the first pivot table which I want to create. So if you look beforehand on this table, it will be easier for you to understand when I am doing some actions to create this table. On this table, as you can see, that in rows I have salesperson, in columns I have my products, and the last column is added by the pivot table, grand total. Similarly, at the bottom, pivot table is adding a grand total row. So you don't have to write any formulas. Pivot table understands that you are looking for some summing or some counting operations. So therefore it is taking these 2 actions to create these grand totals. What does this data is telling me? This is a general record with names in alphabetic order of all the salespeople. Then the second thing, This is the grand total of each individual salesperson. So this salesperson has sold product A of this value, product B of this value, and grand total is this one. Similarly, grand total of each product is also shown here. What was the total sale of this product during the last 5 years? However, on this chart, there is no information for date, state, or no information about units sold. So on your pivot table, it is not compulsory that you will be putting all the information from your master data, because this is not what we want. We want to look at the data from different angles. So therefore, we are using pivot tables. So in this table, I want only this information so that I can quickly see at a glance how the salesperson are performing, how any product is performing. And then I can dig deeper and see how a product is performing within a state, how a salesperson is competing with other salespeople within a state or on country level. So this is how we should be looking at pivot tables. What is the question we want to answer for? So this is the first table we will be creating. Another pivot table we will be creating in this video is this one. And in this table, we are looking at number of units sold by any particular salesperson. This person has sold the maximum units, 53. And now the next two pivot tables we will be creating will be these. On the left hand side, we have best seller for a person. Every row is specific for a salesperson. For example, we can see that the first person, he was very good at selling product B because 61.2% of his sales are coming from product B. On the right hand side, what you can see is that we can see how any person is competing against others at a percentage level. 4.5% of product A was sold by this person. So the best person for product A was this guy. So this is another angle for us to look at the data. Now in this pivot table, we can compare the sales of every product with the state of Australia. So we can see that in New South Wales, product B was sold the most, while in Northern Territory, product C was sold the most. So this is another way of looking at the data. And in this table, we have very interesting comparison of every salesperson against others within the state and on the country level. For example, in New South Wales, we have 6 salesperson, and we can see that how much percentage every person has contributed to the total sales, including all the products. So this is the total sales figure. So this could be a very interesting information. We can compare within the state. And now if you look at the grand total, we can also compare at the country level. So the purpose of this slide is to show you that when you are creating pivot tables, you are just clicking few buttons, a pivot table will be created, and you might be tempted to submit all of your pivot tables to your boss. But this is not a good idea. For example, this table looks ridiculous. What is this 100% on both sides? It conveys nothing. Although it still conveys some information at the bottom, but there is no point of creating such tables. And now we start creating pivot tables. So here we have 3 important things: rows, columns, and values. So I just click on add rows and I add salesperson in my row because this was in our table 1. And in columns, I want to add product. So I click on add and I click on product. So it will add these products here and salespeople in rows. Now I have to add value. And what values I want to fill in these cells under each column and in front of each row. The values I want to put are the total sales, which is the most important value here. And now our table 1 is created. And we can immediately see that this person was unable to sell any of product A during the 5 years period. So there must be something wrong going on here. So we can quickly pinpoint such problem. And because I have already explained these tables, so I will quickly go to creating table 2 and you will see that how easy it is. And now let's say I want to see, instead of the total sales, how many sales were made. So to do that, instead of this sum here under this total sales, I can click on that and I can just select this count. And now I can immediately see how many sales were made of each of these products. So in our data, there were total of 42 sales made by this person, 16 of product C, 23 of product B, and 3 of product A. So the person who made the maximum number of sales is not the person who made most money. So this was the person who made most money in the previous table. But this is the person who made most number of sales. Now if I want to see how many units of each product were sold, so what can I do is, instead of this total sales and count, I can just delete this and I can select another parameter, which is this sales parameter. And if I click on that, now it will show me how many sales of individual products were made. Because if you look at master, in this sale, this person sold 3 of product C, the same person sold 5 of product B in this sale. And when we count total sales, so this is total sales, sum of the total sales. But when we count this as one sale. So let's go back to the total sales. So I add again total sales and I put count to show you the difference. As you can see here that these are the total sales which total to 584. So every event, every single event is one sale. But in each sale we have 3 of product C, for example. So we have 584 rows here. So this is the difference between changing count in total sales and removing this and adding a sales, because that sales is one of our columns in our data. So make sure that you don't do any mistake when you are dealing with pivot tables, because every value gives you further option to select sum, counting, average, maximum, minimum. So you can select all these from here as well. So before I create a new table, I want to show you a few things. For example, let's say you want to change the range of your pivot table. So if you scroll up, you will see range here. So this is my range. So if you click on this, you can change the range to any value. For example, if you add a new row, you can say 586. Or if you want to select from the sheet, then you can just click on this sheet and then you can again select anything. So the next thing is, for example, if you want to change the order of these people, instead of from A to Z, Z to A, you just change this from ascending to descending and it will change. Similarly for product, you have to change here. You can change from C to A as well. Just click on this and it will change here. If you don't want totals to appear, then you simply uncheck these boxes and this will remove the totals. So if I uncheck this, this will also remove this total. So you can see various options here and you can practice these. So let's turn these on, because this is mostly the purpose of our pivot table, so that we don't have to put SUMIFS and COUNTIFS formula. And now let's create table 4 where we want states in our rows and products in our columns. So to do that, products in our column is fine, already there. From rows, just remove this salesperson and add state. And now we have state here and our products here, because I have selected these count value. So therefore it is showing me the count. If I select the sum value, it will show me the sales. So this was our table 4. Now in our table 5, we have our states in our columns and salesperson on our rows, and then we compare based on the percentage. So see how we can do that. So let's change this. We want our states in the columns now. So what we can do is we can drag these states from rows into our columns area, just like this. And now our states are here, and in our rows I can remove this product from our columns, and in our rows I can add salesperson. And now we have salesperson and states data, but we want percentage here so that we could quickly compare. So to do that, in total sales area, in front of sum, you have this default, and if you remove this default, we want the percent of column. If I click on percent of column, now we have our total sales divided into percentage for every salesperson. So this salesperson in New South Wales, this person is in New South Wales. So we can compare these two people, that how much contribution they are doing in total sales value from this state. And if you look at the right column, we can see that how much contribution this person is making in total sales of the country. Let's talk about the last chart, which I showed you not to show. As you can see that we have only one item in each row. And this is because every person belongs to only one state. And this is the knowledge you should have about the data, that one person belongs to one state only. So now if I show this as percent of row, that will be useless. If I click here, you will see that it will show 100% in every row, because every person is alone in that row. So there is no point of showing this type of chart. So be careful. So these are very powerful tool to show and analyze the data. Now the last thing I would like to show you is, for example, I want to filter something. Let's say I want to show the data of only a few of these salespeople. So filtering we have already discussed in another video, so I'm not going in details. I just want to show you how you can do filtering inside the pivot table. So just click on add in the filter area. This is filter area, and for example I want to filter salesperson. So what I can do is, in the salesperson filtering, I click on this showing all items, because currently it is showing all items. If I click here, now I have list of all these salespeople. They are all checked. And if I want to not show, for example, these starting from A, I just uncheck them. I click OK. And as you can see, all the people starting with A have disappeared. So this was the filtering in salespeople. You can do filtering in state. So if you add another filter about state, and you only want data for example, New South Wales, you can see showing all items. If you click here, you can uncheck the rest of the states except the New South Wales, and you will get only data about New South Wales. If I click OK, I get data only about New South Wales. And because in New South Wales we have only these few salespeople, and we have removed all the salespeople with the name starting from A as well, and there could be someone from New South Wales removed with that filter. So when you are using filters, be careful that what you want, because when you use filters in combination with pivot tables, then sometimes you make mistakes. So this was it about pivot tables. I hope that now you understand how to create a pivot table, how to change its size or its location, how to change its range, how to use filters, and how to look at your data from various angles.